It's that time. Again. What time is it?
It's time to go. Once again, we at the Low Ceiling have returned.
We have procured you one of cinema's finest films
He says,
for your viewing pleasure.
oh, God. Pleasure? Stretch, that one. Yeah, for your viewing tortures.
Hey, someone was pleased in this, and it
Okay.
was Elizabeth Gilbert.
Man.
Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I'm John.
And I'm Pri. And today we're talking eat, pray,
Love. Did you say yeet, pray, love?
Yeet. I'm about to curl up, die, because my God, what a travesty.
Yeah. Questioning why we chose this movie. Actually, there's lots of good reasons why we chose this movie, because there's actually a lot to say about this film.
Yeah.
But I want to preface every single thing we're about to say, because I don't know if anyone can tell yet, we did not really like this film. Everyone involved in this movie is incredibly successful, regardless of their involvement of this film.
Of course. Huge names.
Ryan Murphy is probably one of the most powerful people in cinema and television at the moment. Julia Roberts is Julia Roberts. Liz Gilbert is still doing her thing.
Yep.
I mean...
James Franco, my guy.
Yeah, semi-canceled James Franco, yeah. Not for this film.
No, God, no.
He could have been, but not really. But, like, I just want to preface that because I don't have a lot of very positive things to say about this movie.
Well, neither
And
does the rest of the world, because it's 36% Rotten Tomatoes.
The other thing, too, is, like, it's like, here we are about to dunk on a movie that everyone hates, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's now 13 years since this happened in memorial
My God, this...
of Eat, Pray, Love. And it's an interesting movie
yeah.
to look back on because it seems to be a movie that's like one of the last of its kind that can get away with the types of ridiculous shit that it has, you know?
Hey, lesser crimes against humanity have been committed, so
Yeah.
this is up there. It's up there with. My God, I'm just saying the hurt.
Well, let's start off with this. As a person who is a third of this film is representative of their culture, how did you feel about it?
I'm the pee and pray, baby. Oh my God,
You're putting the pee back and pray.
This movie like restored my faith in just never wanting to go to those parts of the country.
Because there's a bunch of middle-aged white people whining about their life over there.
I feel like, man,
In
most of
Kolkata.
my life was in Delhi, right? And just a large part of that city you do find is just infested with people or hippies or, you know, granola crunchy folks who come down there and live there and make it their own.
Reconnect with their spiritual side.
You know, find themselves and also drugs, I guess. I don't know. Good for them.
Yeah.
But in talking to them, most of the time they just talk about themselves or at you. And a lot of this movie was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about this, but the whole spiritual side of well, first of all, I have a lot to say about like the Italian aspect of this because Italy's a country I love. I'm not from there or anything, but it's a country I love, and I've been there a few times, and I often find that for fictitious portrayals of Italy are range from being like just totally inaccurate to kind of downright insulting, and this one is inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
And
it romanticizes it like every other depiction.
But the Indian side, as a observer, I find that's where it starts to get the Italian bit is a little harmless and kind of like eye rolly. The Indian stuff is a little bit like, okay, let's maybe this needed another.
I mean, you could do the hand gestures in Italy and be like, "Hey, manja."
Yeah, and like then, be like, "Oh, I gained 10 pounds." It's like, well, yeah, you're in Italy.
Yeah,
you know,
but then they come to India and they have this soda called Thumbs Up, and she straight up goes, "Is there methamphetamines in it?" Or something.
Well, That's the thing. There's
on.
other aspects. We'll get to it with the India section, but there's
Yeah.
other much more subtle and more pernicious things in this
Yes.
section that are
Yeah.
just kind of like, did no one think this through? Like, anyway. But so as an Indian, you love this movie and think it's representative of your culture.
I wish this movie was called Pray, Pray, Pray. Just
yeah,
spend
why can't it just be
100%.
pray, pray, pray?
100% India.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we said it, but Eat, Pray, Love. Ryan Murphy directed film. Ryan Murphy, who's made 400 television shows. I mean, most recently he was just nominated for an Emmy for Dahmer. Or Dahmer was nominated for an Emmy, and
Right.
I believe he exec produced Dahmer. Ryan Murphy is like one of the most important people
Yeah.
in television, regardless of what you think of his shows. Nary a cinema fan or television fan has not seen a Ryan Murphy produced joint and been like,
100%.
that was all right. There's a couple really good ones. There's
Yeah.
stuff I would never watch, stuff I would never touch with a 10-foot pole, but I don't know much else about him except he's just kind of like a powerhouse, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, he's almost as big as the Grey's Anatomy lady who's, like they're just like these two titans of the industry. And for some reason he made this movie like shortly after he broke out with, I think, Nip Tuck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, but I don't think it was until after that he kind of like American Horror Story and all those other things kind of
Right.
boosted him fame. And I don't know a lot about him, so I'm probably not giving him a lot of justice with like people are going to be like, he produced 5 other shows. And it's like, I get it. I think he did Glee too. I don't know.
Once again, all iterations of Eat, Pray, Love. Dahmer, Eat, Love. Glee, pray a lot, I guess. I don't know. That's a very Christian
and
show.
love
Pray
singing
and love.
and love singing.
Look
and
at that
singing.
nip pick.
What
Nip
was
tuck?
what was Glee? I don't.
Man.
I managed to never watch a single frame of Glee. I still am not totally clear on what it was.
It's a high school drama club where they sing instead of
They sing cover versions though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the only stuff I would ever hear about Glee was people would be like, "Oh, they covered Nirvana or something," and
There
I
you
would be
go.
like, "That sounds terrible."
A cappella, but it's
Yeah.
school children.
Like every episode, they like worked towards like a musical number, right?
That's it.
It does sound like a nightmare I've had recently. So yeah, that's not surprising why I didn't get into that.
Eat, pray, love. I did it.
Again, back to the prefacing thing. So that's Ryan Murphy, right? Elizabeth Gilbert, I have a very strong opinion about.
You love her.
Well, I don't not love her.
Right.
I just have this like sense of her, and I'm wondering if we should talk about it before this or
Let's
after.
do it. Yeah.
So, and I want to say this too. And now I've listened to a couple interviews with her. She seems like a really nice and kind person. And I also want to stress with this film even and with her writings and things like that, her pain and her spiritual adventure solving kind of thing, that's all valid and that's all fine to be, because there's nothing worse. Like the worst critiques of this movie, which I kind of roll my eyes at because it's how a lot of people critique things these days anyway, is like people are like, well, this doesn't really represent a universal vision and not everyone can achieve this through this because she's so privileged and stuff. And it's kind of like,
Sure.
well, that not every movie has to be like super high stakes.
No.
Like different movies can function in different ways. And this is certainly a movie that functions on a different level.
Yeah. At
And-
no point does it pretend to be like, oh, she struggles financially, but she's still trying to find. No, we all know she's rich and she's doing what she
But
wants.
it also doesn't, I think what rubs people the wrong way is that it also doesn't ever confront that. Like it never, like she very rarely at any points is kind of like, well, I'm also really lucky to be able to do this. Because she was a successful writer at the time.
Yeah.
And to be fair to her, she got there through like total merit and talent. Like
Yeah.
she's not a bad writer at all. I think this book, I read about a third of it and then I lit it on fire and put it in a little boat and sent it over a waterfall because it's just so obnoxious. But she got to where she is on merit. She still has a strong writing career.
Yeah.
And she's like a thoughtful, smart, and interesting enough person.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into the get my Liz Gilbert diatribe, as I call it, and I'm gonna sound really mean, but I don't mean it to sound really mean. It just strikes me. It just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Gilbert is a successful writer, and she's with this guy, and the events of Eat, Pray, Love basically happen, where she divorces this guy who she was never really sure about in the first place, as far as I can remember.
This
right?
is a real life?
This is in real life. We're talking about the real life Elizabeth Gilbert. We'll get into the plot later.
Okay.
She divorces this guy. She decides to go on this spiritual journey. At the end of this spiritual journey, which is the film Eat, Pray, Love, which we'll talk about later, she meets this other guy, played by Javier Bardem in the film. They get married after she has a spiritual reawakening. Essentially, that's the result of all of this. She writes a book called Committed, and it's called a skeptic makes peace with marriage, or something like that. Shortly after, like a couple of years after that, she divorces this man and proclaims that she's fallen in love, or has always been in love with her best friend, who is a woman, right? Nothing wrong with that. Although it's a weird irony to write a book about coming to peace with marriage and then shortly later divorcing this person. This is where I kind of thought about this, is because I listened to an interview with her where she talked about this experience with her friend. Her friend is dying of cancer at the time, her best friend. Mm-hmm. And she goes and they have like a commitment ceremony. They're functionally married for the last year of this woman's life,
right?
Which is really sad. Like it's really sad. It's kind of a sweet thing for her to do.
Yeah.
And it's like a really huge decision, right? Her friend dies, which was going to happen. And after that, that's kind of where the story of Elizabeth Gilbert ends. The thing that rubs me the wrong way about her is it seems like she's mined her personal life in the direction of the content she's creating. So like Eat, Pray, Love is a book that's like, in my opinion, an ill-advised, well-written account of her journey to discovery. And then the book about marriage is kind of like, well, at what point do you stop exploiting your own life for content?
Well, I don't know about that, because I think a lot of like other writers, maybe even male writers, do the same thing with their alcoholism or their philandering. And Philip Roth and the Charles Bukowskis of the world, man, all they do is 100%. I got drunk and then I fucked this lady and then here's a whole book of my 40 essays.
Yeah, 100%. And Liz Gilbert seems to be kind of like a modern version of like the uncharitable way I kind of think of it is like she kind of like leaves a path of destruction in her wake and then creates a career out of it, right?
Sure.
Like, if all of the stuff in Eat, Pray, Love is to be believed, which I strongly doubt, it is kind of like it often leaves more weird questions than it answers. Mm-hmm. And then also like you're kind of like, well, what went so wrong with this marriage that then this guy who makes mixtapes solves it, which I don't remember because I never got to that part of the book. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you write a book based on that, and then you divorce that guy. It's like, what does it all mean? Like,
totally. As someone who's not read the book but just watching the movie, first of all, 2.5 hours, plenty of time for them to establish what her motivations are or what the shortcomings of the marriage are, none of which are addressed. They show them having a good time, and then 5 minutes later, she's like, I don't know about all this.
And then also,
so how are we to know that this is a bad marriage?
It's weird because the movie is so long, and they don't spend enough time.
Not at all.
Like, and Billy Crudup just comes across like as like a doofus.
Yeah. Not a not a bad guy, just a goofy guy.
Just like a dude who's like lost, like and not he doesn't like have what she needs, which I get.
Yeah.
But he just comes across as kind of like a vapid dipshit.
And then to his point, he's like, how come we've never had a single conversation about this until you say the words divorce? Like you just pretended you were happy the whole time and then secretly you weren't? How would I know your motivations?
Yes.
Same for the audience. I'm just like, wait, what? You were just dancing in the kitchen and now the same night you're like, nah, I'm over it.
It seems like, and she kind of says this to Viola Davis, that it's like she's been acting like a college student. She just bounces from relationship to relationship to relationship forever. It's so funny because before they get divorced, some of like the problems that they hint at, it just seems so minor. And they just seem so like, so it's just a relationship that didn't click, but they ended up being married for like a decade or whatever. And it's kind of like, all right. Like, okay. I don't know.
Right.
And then her...
No clear motivations.
I guess her reaction seems a little outsized in that regard.
100%.
You know? But she's always wanted to do it, so I get it. But, you know...
And she's also like, you start to see that, okay, she has like bigger problems in her own mind of where she is in the world and finding peace and being balanced and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And maybe she's taking it out on the marriage. Or maybe she's targeting this guy, her husband, to be like the cause of these problems right now. And maybe that's not the case, but to her, this is the solution. And we're supposed to be like, yeah, girl, you go get that airplane ticket to 3 major countries.
The problem in New York is she doesn't have enough brown people applauding her for being amazing.
Fucking hell.
And she's got to go out to where brown people are, like India, and have them be like, oh, you're the greatest white I've ever met. Oh, Liz, the best white. Like, that is... that's like a big problem I have with the latter 2 sections, but it's also a problem I have with the Italy section. So, okay. Before we get into the plot, though, this movie is not actually as bad as I thought it would be.
Now that you've seen it 4 times.
Now that I've watched it plenty of times, yeah.
Okay.
What did you anticipate?
I wanted to like it.
Me too.
So I went into it. The reason we put it on our list, because I thought 36%. No way. Eat, Pray, Love. There's got to be some substance. Julia Roberts, fucking James Franco, Viola Davis, who disappears entirely.
Javier Bardem, fresh off an Academy Award-winning performance.
Come on, right? All the names we love, and we go into it. And I wanted to like it so badly. I wanted to, every scene I was like, no, maybe I should rewatch this and really find... I couldn't do it. I hated it so much.
Is it
for how hard it tries?
Is it maybe appropriate to say, and maybe this is how I feel, but like,
yeah,
I was kind of like, maybe this movie will correct some of the sins of the book, and I think it doesn't. I think it exacerbates them.
Shit.
Because again, Liz Gilbert is a very good writer, and without that voice. And the thing, this movie has like this terrible voiceover that it's like comes and goes, and it's just not, you don't need it. You should either have more of it or have way less of it. But like without Liz Gilbert's unique voice, it starts to really fall apart.
There's a really good Roger Ebert quote about this movie where he says, Liz Gilbert's wit and charm, you do want to travel the world with her, but not through a 2.5-hour fucking movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard, kind of unbearable watch through most of the second half of the film.
Yeah, and I also think like some of the more like the subtleties of Liz Gilbert kind of admitting that she's a bit of a knob at points.
Yeah.
Does not come across in this movie because like I said, like the thing that drove me so insane is that everywhere she goes, they're just like, fuck, you are the best. You are incredible. It's like
she wrote it about her.
She's such a fucking Mary Sue, but not in like an action or a fantasy.
Oh my
it's
God.
just a real life Mary Sue, where the part that I noticed today when I was watching it was the part where so many situations she gets into are just made to like venerate her.
Yeah.
In ways.
100%.
From just being like a fucking natural Italian to being straight up a white savior.
Yeah.
And there's this part where they're sitting in that restaurant in Rome, and Giovanni is like, "You're a Roman woman," which is like, I don't think an Italian would ever say that to an American.
No.
Especially after like a week of being there. And for one, so you have that, right? Where an Italian is just like, oh, this American has blown my mind.
Oh my God.
And then she's like, no, that's a real Roman woman. She points at the lady feeding her dog, which only serves to like venerate her further as like, not only is she a real Roman woman, she's also humble and just super cool and chill.
Shut
and
up.
It's just so like,
yeah,
it's like the movie is like full of humble bragging in the most annoying way.
That's the perfect word for it. And I feel like a lot of people watch it because they like it for the reason that it's has a good message, right? Go travel, go talk to people who are not in your neighborhood.
The message is not wrong.
The message
I want
is not
to
wrong.
be clear. The message
Correct.
is not wrong.
Yeah. Like go find yourself wherever the hell you need to, right? Do whatever you want to if you're able to do it. Financially, good for you.
I just want to point out, I did something very similar like just a couple months ago.
There you are, right? Like sometimes you're just stuck in a rut and you can't figure your way out of life in your own four walls. So you travel, and it's a great solution for a lot of people. Perfect. It's just the way that message is packaged is garbage.
Yeah.
It just steps on the backs of so many people.
It's a weird movie that lets you or its intention is kind of like let you play in this fantasy world.
Yeah.
it's a movie for those the fucking people who get with the like the live, laugh, love signs and like the wine mom and it's 5 o'clock somewhere and the mountains are calling and I must go tattoos and shit like that.
Love
right?
it. Love all of that.
But
Great.
it's also like it lets you dabble in this fantasy.
Yeah.
Where okay, this is gonna sound I've always kind of thought this though, but like there is a strain of I think like American and Canadian exceptionalism where we think, especially whites, that like we're gonna go to some exotic place and they're gonna be just so impressed about how exotic and different we are.
Yeah.
And this is not true. Most people, when you go to other countries, most people are like, I just live here. Like, just
out here, we just call it
allow
food.
me live. Allow me to live, please. Like, you know, it's just like can you stop getting in the way of me living? And
oh my god, how you say spring roll? Oh, come on.
But it's this total fantasy where I don't know what I'm trying to say, but do you know what I'm getting at?
I do, because we're grasping so hard at wanting it to mean something greater than it is. Because once you get there, over there, it's just a normal thing. But then for ourselves, we want it to define us and change us or motivate us.
It also indulges in this fantasy that I think lots of people travel with. And far be it for me to like tell people how to travel, right? I'm not trying to do that. But you do often like when you travel, you do sometimes like you'll come across other people, other travelers or other people like that, where it is like traveling is just a tool for them. And the world is just a place. It's not like they're not like this at home. This is a reflection of who they are at home. Whereas like the world just exists around them and to service them. And it gets particularly gross when you're going to a country like India, which like no one one of the two brown people she actually talks to in the India section, it's like none of them know the experience or privilege that she has. Like they're so different, and yet all she does there is try to have this inward spiritual journey. And I don't know, I find it kind of gross. But everyone fucking travel however you want. I don't care.
Yeah, you know what, I know we're not talking about like the financial side of it. We don't even have to, because I really think that's an annoying critique to make. 100%.
People are allowed to have issues no matter their social strata. I mean, we're watching billionaires melting down online as we speak, right? Everyone has their fucking struggles. It wouldn't be particularly fun to watch Elon Musk go around and be like, how do people drive in this country and stuff? Like, like Liz Gilbert is a fairly normal woman, and it's like it's okay, you know. Like we're making a big
spend your wealth, fucking go for it.
Yeah, we're making a big thing of this movie because, well, we wouldn't come on here and be like, we don't have anything to say.
No,
but you know what I mean. Like I don't think that critique. I don't like those critiques. People probably make that criticism of Succession where they're just kind of like, I don't care what a bunch of rich people do. And it's like, well, then fine, then don't. Like,
exactly.
You know.
It's like, if we had a bunch, like buku money, just travel around the world and then do something very basic and boring, then I don't want to hear about it. Which is what a lot of this movie is.
That's the thing, is it isn't that exceptional.
It's not exceptional.
And the other thing too, to go again against that critique of being like, oh well, she's really privileged. She's not that privileged.
No.
She's pretty like upper middle class. You know,
Sure.
she's made a career from nothing basically. Like
you
don't have to like this movie, and you probably don't. So,
totally.
Yeah.
It's that it tries so very hard to be so deep and spiritual and meaningful, and it falls on its ass. Meanwhile, a sister film like, I don't know, I'm thinking of like The Expendables or Sex and the City.
I've always thought that
Eat, Pray,
Love and The Expendables would
two
be
sides
just
of the same coin.
A perfect double feature. I've always said that. It's always been my political stance.
What I'm trying to say is that when you go into watching an action film, you get an action film. Or you go into watching like Four Girls in the City, you get that, them being crass and fun and da-da-da. You watch a movie like Eat, Pray, Love, you want to get something that is of substance to like, of eating and praying and loving. but it's just like a clusterfuck.
Can I ask you, because I was thinking about this today.
Yeah.
I think this movie is better than Sex and the City 2, though.
Oh man, I feel like most movies are.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not a high bar to clear.
Yeah.
But Sex and the City 2 knows how vapid it is.
100%, and it addresses it.
This movie doesn't.
Yes.
That's the thing that is so frustrating. There seems like this disconnect between
That's it.
that and
That's it.
yeah.
So like, make an honest film about a character who has real flaws and not like digging at the rest of the world
That's
to be the source of her
like,
problem.
Her flaws are really not that big a deal.
No.
You know, like in the grand scheme of things, like that's the thing that kind of frustrates me is like, and then when she goes to these other countries, she's so rarely confronted with some of her biases,
Yeah.
which is what happens when you go to like different cultures, even somewhere like Italy.
Yeah.
Is like everything to her in Italy is just like a nice, pleasant little surprise. Like nothing is strange. She's so like takes everything in such perfect stride, and it's like it's so fakely admirable.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Maybe I didn't fully understand what her troubles are. Maybe now you can tell me, or maybe there is no answer. But every time she's like, I need to go find balance, we are never at any point in the movie told what her problems or woes are. It's just that she feels off.
That's the thing, is that they're
like, can she put it into words? Is that a thing in the book? Do they say that
she's
has, like,
better about it in the book? But that's honestly, the thing that is special about the book is that I don't think anyone but her could have really written it, because she's a talented writer, right?
Right.
But when you dig deep into it, the flaws are very surface level. And then it becomes particularly poignant when Richard Jenkins has this breakdown, and you're just like, man, his problems are so much worse than yours.
And that, you know what? While we're watching the film, I'm also thinking of Richard Jenkins' character, guy from Texas, obviously just like messed up his whole life due to alcoholism or drugs, or left, almost killed his kid, all these things. And then I'm also thinking of Otessa Moshfegh's book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation.
Yeah.
Rich girl drugs her way to sleeping for a year, right? Also privileged from a particular lens.
Yeah.
But you cannot help but not feel just like grief for her, because every point of her like it's spelled out.
Well, the different
like depression is spelled out, or like it doesn't have to be that extreme in Liz Gilbert's.
But among the
right?
many differences between this film and a book by Otessa Moshfegh is that those books, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is a great book that people should read if they want to, it's all about this woman's flaws.
Yes.
This movie is trying to be like, it's, as we've said, it's like, this lady feels really bad about stuff, but she's essentially a god. Like, like,
thank you. That's
but she's
exactly
functionally a flawless person.
She is incredibly tall, blonde, perfect, also knows a few brown people.
But barely. I
But
mean,
barely,
come on.
yeah.
And the thing that, like, like the thing that drives me so crazy about this movie is that it allows watchers to indulge in kind of harmful fantasies about traveling in other cultures.
Yeah.
It's not this book's fault, but things like this and like the rise of social media is like what has made traveling, I think, so frustrating to a lot of people, including some situations I've been in myself, where it makes you feel like, when she says something really interesting when she talks to Viola Davis about, she wants to go, she's like, I want to see something to marvel at again. Which I was like, that's the only good scene in this film, is when she explains that. Because I was like, I really relate to that. Like, that's why I travel, is to go and look up at like a building and be like, wow, that's so big. And then be like, oh, I don't know, I've seen bigger. And then walk away, things like that.
And then
right?
look down and be like, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect. What's up?
But like, you know what I mean, right? Like something
Yeah.
just different to marvel at.
You just want to feel something different.
Whereas like, sometimes when you go traveling, especially in very touristy places, it can be a little bit like you're just at home but on the beach. Or you're just like, you're doing it for, I complained about this. I'm going to sound like such a fucking asshole, but like I complained about this when I was in Italy, how like some places you go and you're just like, I just think they should ban cell phones from these places, because you're like, you're looking at a thing and there's like people like resting their arm on your shoulder to take a picture, and you're just like, hey,
Damn.
can you get out of the way? And you always know they're French because they don't have really a thought about personal space.
Oh my God.
And they're always like, oh, mate, no. And then
They're French.
That's perfect French.
Exactly.
But like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, which
Wow. Yeah.
I'm complaining, but I accept it. Like it's part of life. But it is a thing where you're just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I could have traveled back in 2004 and not have to have my phone on
I know.
me, you know.
A large part of that is like not being in the moment, having it for social media, clicking it for the gram, blah blah blah. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
And I don't know. This book and this type of movie, I think allows people to like indulge in those sorts of fantasies. When I think to wrap that whole conversation up, I think you should be a little more humble because you're just going to places where like people live and that's their life, you know. And
don't be a dick.
yeah, it's like the weird feeling you get when you're at like the 9/11 memorial and people are putting up peace signs and like smiling outside, and you're like, this is odd. Maybe you don't need a picture of this, like, you know, or like the many tacky ones outside of Auschwitz that people have
there
taken.
you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think none of this is a revolutionary take. Hey, don't be an asshole when you go to someone's.
Yeah.
But also, if you're gonna write a book about it and then make a mega blockbuster, do more. Do more than just sitting in an ashram and being like, oh yeah, your life seems really hard, brown girl. What are you gonna do next? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Let's talk about the plot. We've been
Ugh.
fucking talking about this shit forever. All right.
All
So,
right.
Starts off. She's in Bali, and she meets Ketut, who is the medicine man.
Wait a minute. Before any of that, let us not forget a very important dialogue about the box.
That's after this.
What?
The film literally opens in Bali. Can you let me do my thing, or are you just gonna?
I've fully.
You're just gonna fuck around over
I've
there.
blocked all memory. Of
I'm
this.
trying to produce something serious
We both
for
know.
all my French fans out there.
Oi, mate.
Je ne sais quoi, oi mate.
Je ne sais quoi.
Je m'appelle
Buku podcast.
Suck your dad.
Oh wow.
Suck
Jeez.
your dad. Christ, she's in Bali. She meets Ketut. Ketut, the medicine man, who she later calls Yoda, which is in no way insulting.
Oh boy.
He says, you know,
Nice.
come back, smile with your liver, eat with your fucking hands, and walk on 4 feet or whatever.
Sure.
He says, you're going to come back. You're going to lose all your money. Fuck you. You're going to come back here and study with me and help me learn English.
Yeah.
Ketut is great. I actually, sorry, I wanted to write this down because Ketut is played by, he's Hadi
Yeah.
Subianto.
There you go.
Yeah. Very adorable medicine man.
Super cutie.
Yeah. So so she's in Bali, she does that, and then she's back in New York where she is married to Billy Crudup, but she isn't really happy with that. She's friends with Viola Davis. She's thinking about having kids. The first opening kind of sequence is so fucking boring. It is like nothing exciting.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, of course.
It's like it's just so expository and not interesting.
Yeah.
It's a really tough start.
For far too long.
Yeah. And they use a Fleetwood Mac song, which just validates every other basic idiot who likes music that's not that good, honestly.
Come on.
Viola Davis has
Sorry to all cranberry juice sponsors.
Viola Davis has tearful regret in her eyes every time she's on screen, being like, "Why did I take this role?
Fucking hell!
I'm an Academy Award nominee."
They put me in a terrible wig. Awful, dude.
So
DD.
basically, she just decides she wants to divorce Stephen, Billy Crudup.
Yeah.
And I have to say, as a man who's only read 1/3 of this book, this kind of like point leading up to it, and remember, this book came out in 2005, and I read it in like 2008 maybe. This part was like actually well described, like the feelings of like overwhelming, inexplicable depression she was having.
Okay.
And this marriage was part of all of that. But she describes like how she outwardly kind of seeming okay, but inwardly she's unable to sleep and crying on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. and stuff like that. Like it is quite well defined, I think. Yeah.
I could have never guessed it, man. From
What?
the movie?
No, exactly. The movie.
I would have never known that there's depth to this character.
Yeah.
And then just infuriatedly watching it for fuck 2.5 hours. Like, what is your problem? Tell me your problem, because I want to like you, but you're making it so hard. You're so tall. I hate it. Anyway,
they get a divorce. There's a scene in the divorce office that just is not interesting or good.
Does he beatbox at some point?
He it's like,
what's not to
the
love?
thing too, like, I don't want to we're harping. A lot of my grief comes with the philosophy behind this film, but like there's some scenes too where you're just like, this is not funny.
No.
Or interesting. And there's another one, skipping a little bit ahead, but this scene of her like meet cute, I say that in quotations, with Javier Bardem is terrible.
Of course.
It's not well done.
Also,
this is ostensibly a romantic comedy.
Every time she meets a man who she doesn't meet anyone. All these men approach her and they're all fantastic and nice and sweet and rich and kind.
And want to stick it in her.
Fuck off, dude. Like, what?
Well, that goes along with her kind of being a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
So, anyway, she starts dating James Franco, which kind of in retrospect, like, they stick so faithfully to the book, but in retrospect is kind of like, you could probably skip ahead to the trip part of all of this. Like, I just don't think Franco's character is very necessary. Also, Franco looks like he's just like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. He's just this awkward dreamboat.
He's like, I wish my arm was still stuck in that rock, Jaffiel.
I wish I was back on stage performing Permeable Membrane.
Permeable Membrane. Yeah.
Great poster. I actually want that.
The thing that's so funny about that scene is you're always dicing with death when you make a not good movie, and then inside of it there's a work of art that's bad. Because you're just kind of like, well, this isn't good.
Look at this. Like, look at this
whole
garbage.
thing inside is not good.
Rotten core.
Yeah. Which, can you correct me if I'm wrong? She writes that play. Because Franco says, he's like, I'm sorry that I ad-libbed your material or whatever.
Oh, God.
But she doesn't seem to care that nobody liked it. But, like, that's fine. Like, I was never... There's a deleted scene where they explain that, I'm sure.
Oh, my God.
Or maybe it's in the poster, but I didn't see it. So she's dating Franco, but the real plot point with dating Franco is that she goes to his apartment and he has a shrine dedicated to Guru Gita, which I was wondering, because would you have, if I had had a picture of a middle-aged Indian woman on my wall first time you came to my place, would we be doing this right now?
It better be my mom on that fucking photo, or strange but acceptable. No, I would have left so fast. But that is because I do not have the privilege of being very tall and blonde and white to just take these risks of walking into a man's personal shrine to some friggin'... What is going on, man? Is she okay? She's not okay. Okay. She's like, as she says, she dove out of her marriage and headfirst into another relationship. It's not a relationship. It's like a... I mean, who am I to judge? Damn.
But you know what? It is like something that they get at later when Viola Davis's husband is like, you used to look like Steven and now you look like this guy.
Yeah.
Is like that point where you're just kind of like, yeah, she has no real
personality
center for herself.
Yes.
That's the thing. And as she says in the next scene, which is the only good scene in the movie, where she decides to go on the trip and she explains why.
Yeah.
She says that she's just bounced from relationship to relationship to relationship and she's never had a moment for herself, right? Which is a feeling that is relatable. Like, I understand that. Like I said, that scene is good.
And it's the shortest scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Any good moment is so fleeting and underutilized, and then you have to sit through 40 minutes of some guy being like, you will travel the world. It's like, bro, we heard it 4 times.
Yeah. So she goes to Italy. She ends up in Rome. She stays with the fucking croniest Italian crone you've ever seen. For some reason, they had to find the oldest, fucking Italian crone they could ever find. It's like, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and she has like these like just like thoughtful conversations with this woman about her divorce and stuff, which is so boring and annoying.
Is this all after she like tells James Franco that I'm going to Italy?
Yeah.
Okay. So before she does that, before she goes to Italy, there's a moment where there's like a montage of her and James Franco being super in love and doing laundry together and just being
folds
cute.
her delicates.
But yeah, he folds her delicates, and then they're in this like shitty laundromat. Where are they in Brooklyn? I don't know. This lady, she looks at her and goes, "Oh my god, baby, you in so much trouble."
So much trouble.
Why did she not come back? It's like she's the Catut of New York.
I want to see her story.
That's the clairvoyant that you needed, dumb bitch. Not to go. She was right there.
She went all the way to Bali to meet her medicine man, and this lady was right there, being
right there next to you.
Get your shit together.
Yeah. Get out of here. It was great.
Is she French?
Great.
That sounded
Get out of here. No.
That was Swedish. That was Sophie that you were doing there. So in Italy, she meets Sophie at a cafe. That coffee scene drives me insane. Because there's not that many business people in Italy, to be honest.
No.
And I had said to you about the few times I've been to Italy, nowhere is really that busy because there's a coffee shop literally every 3 meters.
Every 5 seconds, yeah.
And like, it's just like, it's like packed to the brim full of businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you have to be like super prompt. And it's kind of like, bro, this isn't France. Like, people are actually really chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just mad that some Swedish person was not like, I will translate this for you. Here's a limoncello and 7 espressos. Like, I did not order any of those things,
I can order
lady.
a coffee and 2 Napolitans. I think I'll be fine. Yeah.
You could literally use all those words. Coffee, Napolitan, and they would know exactly.
The other thing too, though, she's on vacation. It's like, what are you in a rush for? Just go sit down and wait. Someone will fucking come to your fucking, like, unless you're like in very central Rome, I don't think anyone like it's not that busy. Just wait around. Yeah.
How do I ask for pizza in Italian? Point and say pizza. Idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just so incensed. Like, you don't need a dictionary to learn the word microwave or whatever the fuck she learned. She's like, why are you learning?
Pepper grinder.
They're pepper grinder.
Macchina pepe.
Okay. Yeah.
Pepper machine. Yeah.
I wish to unlearn it. I remove it from my mind.
So, and then she meets Sophie's like boyfriend Giovanni, who's also the tutor, teaches her Italian. Her Italian improves magically. She's incredible at it. She's better than I am at it. I'm not good, so it's not surprising. And she meets a guy named Luca Spaghetti. Now, I wouldn't bring him up because, like every other supporting character, he has very little purpose or inner life or character whatsoever.
Oh, of course.
However, he does say something that I truly, truly agree with. And while I don't live it, I agree with it. And it's what I do kind of like about Italy. When he's getting his haircut and he's like, you Americans, like, you feel like you have to earn pleasure. You feel like you can't do anything you like unless you earn it.
Yeah.
And like in Italy, it's like we deserve it. Everything we do tells us we deserve to enjoy ourselves, basically.
You deserve a break.
And I was like, yeah, I really like that a lot. Even though I'm not a peon of that kind of behavior. Yeah. But yeah, I felt like that was a really interesting thing. Yeah.
Like siesta as a concept is not baked into our culture. So we don't have the privilege of being like, yeah, we take 2 to 5. We're unavailable. No, you're fired because we live in the real world of capitalistic pressures.
Well, yeah.
So thanks, spaghetti, Mr. Man.
The thing, like that if you re-listen to that little speech, he's very ahead of his time with what he's talking about with burnout, right?
Yeah, this like a need to be incessantly productive.
Yeah,
like,
and
you mean nothing.
It's a thing that like people didn't talk about very much until the pandemic.
My God, until you were literally dying.
Like, hey, why is everyone miserable working all the time? It's like, it's this thing called burnout that's existed forever, and it's the thing that made your parents alcoholics and like all this shit.
Yeah,
and it's because the system we work under is fucking shitty and stupid, and the system tells us that we don't deserve pleasure unless we've earned it, basically.
And then you have children being like, "You gotta hustle and grind, bro." Shut up. Take a nap.
You have to have it all, man. You have to have it all. And you know what? This movie doesn't do that. Like, she's a modern woman. She can have it all. It really doesn't, because she's trying to find out what she does need, kind of. You know what I mean?
Correct, yeah.
And part of being in Italy is, like, learning the... what's it called? Dolce far niente or
Yeah.
whatever. The sweetness of doing nothing, which I think is a really interesting concept. I always found that like in Italy, something I love about it is like their ritual of kind of food and drink.
Yeah.
Like the after work drink where you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm after work. I want to fucking unwind, you know? Whereas like when I like finish work, I'm often like, oh, what do I got to do next? You know? And it's just a different mindset.
Yeah.
And I wish I could learn. Maybe I'll go on a spiritual trip there and I'll figure it out.
I don't know. For her, it's like the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing where her foundational base needs are already met. She's got money, she got food, shelter, sorted.
True.
Some things she doesn't have is like how to find balance or quote unquote or enlightenment. And so, well, if you got your food, money, shelter sorted, take it and go travel.
Yeah. And I think that part of like what the Italy thing teaches her is like you don't need a lot of the stuff that you want.
Yes.
Which is when she goes to like learn prayer and spirituality in these other places, like I don't know a lot about this, but like their traditions based on being like wanting is killing you.
Yeah.
You know, and you're trying to let go of wanting things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make the movie any better.
No.
So they go to Naples. And there's a couple things that bother me about Naples. It's very brief when she's in Naples. But first off, there's a scene where they're walking down the street and a little girl flips them the bird, which that doesn't bother me because that happens everywhere I go. But no, that doesn't bother me. But there's this part that this is where it gets to like that weird, underhanded, very North American point of view where Sophie says... She's like, oh, we have to be careful because Giovanni said his cousin was here and he got mugged in a museum.
Right.
Why do you have to say that? Like, something that really annoys me about before I go to a place or whatever, looking up people's experiences of it, especially certain types of people. There's kind of this like North American, Canadian American vibe where they think that everywhere you go is way more dangerous and everyone is out to scam you. And that's not true.
No.
Now, I know that parts of Naples are dangerous. I'm not that naive.
Yeah.
But just kind of being like, I don't know, you could get mugged in a museum is kind of like, that's pretty unlikely.
Come on.
You know? Like
one guy.
And so my question when I thought it was like, why bother? Like, why bother saying it's like you could get mugged in fucking New York?
Yeah. Every day. Yeah. Every day that happens.
The fucking Met is free. You can get mugged in there any day. You think muggers are going to donate at the Met? Yeah, fuck that.
Shit, I don't.
Yeah. That's why you're not invited to the Met Gala.
It's too late. I'm
because
already.
you've never been.
I'm out there holding Rihanna at
I
gunpoint.
donated $20 American when I went.
Oh, that's.
They're calling me every year, being like, "Come to the Met Gala, John." And I'm like, "No, I don't have my pizza costume's not ready yet." Blah blah blah. Speaking of pizza, so the pizza scene in this movie is far removed from what they have in the book. The one in the book is one of the most annoying. This is the point where I lit it on fire and sent it over the Great Falls of Rauros. Is so annoying to me because
what happens?
They eat pizza in Naples, which is where pizza is from, right? And they have this very annoying, just like, oh, this is the most heavenly, godly thing I've ever tasted ever before in my life ever. And you could never have pizza anywhere else ever again. And that kind of food snobbery really drives me crazy because so many cities in the world have such great food, including pizza.
Yeah.
And when people can get, this comes from my years of working in like a kind of, like a cafe, a kind of finer establishment where people could be very like snobby. I remember a guy came in and was like, he really wanted macarons because he was like, yeah, I was just in Paris for 3 weeks and the macarons there, I was just eating them every day. And I was like, why? They're fucking, they're not that good, bro. Man. And it's but that kind of snobbery just has always bothered me about just being like, oh no, only here is really good. Everything else is just fake and inauthentic and shitty. And it's kind of like, that's just a really close-minded way of thinking of things, basically.
100%. But it's like a way people do that thing to make themselves and their experience feel special and elevated.
Elevated, yeah.
And it's like a little treat that I'm going to put out in the world. And if I say it, maybe it's true. This is the best pizza I've ever had or ever will have.
It's the best pizza I've ever had, and therefore it's probably the best pizza
in the world.
Yeah.
There you go. And that's a shit take.
Yeah, I have my own shit take about pizza, which I've told you a couple of times, but yeah.
Domino's, nothing beats it.
Nothing beats Domino's.
Fucking Sunday morning.
No, I've had lots of pizza from lots of places that have great pizza, and probably some of the best I've ever had. The best I ever had was in Italy, to be fair. It wasn't in Naples, it was somewhere else.
Yeah.
But like pretty up there.
Shout out to the city.
Oh, Florence. There's a place in Florence called Gustarium, which it doesn't do traditional Napolitan pizza thing, but it's got these like sheets of pizza as big as this desk, and this desk is 9 feet wide. No, it's like just these massive sheets of pizza, like kind of puffy crust, more like focaccia, but they're just like big dollops of like cheese and meat and just fucking incredible. And the guy gave us free champagne. It was great. This is with my ex-girlfriend.
I'm about to eat, pray, and nothing else. All right.
We going back.
But like, it would be crazy for you to then be like, okay,
I'm never eating pizza anywhere else.
Yeah. Now that I've had one experience.
And my shit take is that one of the best pizza places I've ever had is in Vancouver. So, yeah. Which people can probably guess who know me, but it's the best pizza place. Certainly in the city, it's one of the best pizza places I've been to. But I'm not going to give it a shout out because it doesn't need my help. So
let the people know.
Fuck you. Fuck your mother.
Gee, whoa, with that mouth.
Fuck la mama.
Okay.
All right. God.
Christ.
So she eats pizza. She gets fat. She watches soccer. They try on jeans, which is like, why bother getting jeans that tight? You're gonna kill yourself.
Stupid.
She's about to go. They go to Tuscany for a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. Which
Liz completely fucks up. That shit is on her, even though they blame Luca Spaghetti. Poor Luca Spaghetti. The Italian dolce far niente. My brother. She's like, hey, when's the turkey ready? He's like, I haven't defrosted it. It's like, you need to tell him how to cook this thing.
Yeah.
So we discussed, how the fuck would you get a turkey in Italy?
They don't even call that there.
Yeah.
What do they call a turkey in Turkey?
Turkey.
That's okay.
In Italy, it's a tacchino.
Okay.
But, so like, we were trying to decipher how popular it might be to get a turkey.
Cold cuts.
It seems like it's not that popular at all. But
no.
Maybe I'm wrong though. It just seemed like something they're native to the Americas. So
maybe they get a smaller bird and be like, this is the best turkey I've ever had in my whole life.
The turkeys that we get for Thanksgiving here are horrendously large. Like they're just it's kind of disgusting when you think about it. They're bred to just have tits the size of a human's. Like a moderately sized human tits on a bird, and they're just like, I can't walk, just fucking kill me.
Threw my back out trying to look gorgeous for the beach. Nope, that's a chicken.
I've been thinking about getting breast reduction surgery.
You want to gobble on these? I can't. That's a hilarious image, guys. Turkeys with titties.
Well, it's not that funny when you consider that they're bred to have. It's chickens are too. To be fair to our chicken friends out there,
just picture me with a turkey neck right now. We're doing it.
Fuck. All right. Okay. She fucks up Thanksgiving. They go to India. Fuck me.
What do they do for turkey in India? You know, it's over. All right.
You're the Indian. I don't know.
They don't. It's canceled. Celebrate Diwali instead.
Chickpeas, yeah. So she goes to the Guru Gita's ashram and she starts scrubbing the floor.
She's like, "Where's Guru Gita?" I was like, "That bitch in New York."
She's in New York, bro.
What the fuck are you doing in India?
She's at the Met Gala. What are you talking about? She donated her $20. She gets invited there every year.
Absolute goose.
So I wanted to ask you before we really get into the breast meat of India.
Yes.
Was there anything that Richard Jenkins says that you thought I might latch onto, and anything he says specifically?
Thumbs up? No.
No.
Go on. What is it?
No lips on the bottle?
Oh man.
This really explained a lot of how mentally ill you are.
Of course. Yo, like, there's a lot of stuff they tell you when you travel, like even when you brush your teeth. Like if you've not been there before, use bottled water. You don't know what it's coming from. You don't want to put your mouth on it. Fine. But they're in an ashram.
Yeah. I encourage, this is maybe a little controversial though, but everywhere I go, as soon as I get off the plane, I ask the driver, the bus driver, the Uber, the taxi, I say, take me to the nearest puddle, and I stick my face in it and I drink very deeply from this puddle just to like get on board with whatever is going on. Yeah. If you're in Europe, it's the only free water you're gonna get. Trust me.
They feel like so obligated to be like, hey, tourists watching this film, don't go to Italy, you might get mugged in a museum. Don't go to India, you might get herpes and die. I don't know, whatever.
Well, it's not dissimilar to it in Sex and the City, which I made a point of being like, she drinks water from Mexico and therefore shits herself.
Yes, of course.
Which is like, it's humor. This is why I think this movie is kind of one of the last of its kind, is because these days I just don't really think you can get away with that sort of humor, even though as far as racist humor goes, it's kind of mild, but it is a little bit like in 2010 when this movie came out. This was before Instagram-ish, kind of. It's before like the internet turned into this insane piece of shit that it is.
Before you could use eat, pray, love as a verb.
Yeah. But also before people had a chance to really get online and like discuss pieces of art the way that they do now and form weirdly cultish attachments to them and then go mental when any one thing doesn't really work out. But now this is like, people notice and now they can talk to each other about it. Back then people were smart. They do notice these kinds of things too. But it's like now you can't really get away with that kind of stuff because people notice these types of things. Because
you're reducing it to its lowest like quality, that is like its only qualifier for that thing is that, oh, it's dirty. Or, oh, if you partake in this activity in this city, that means it's certain death.
It's like if you talk, if you're like, like making a joke about like, oh, I went to Delhi and just shit myself for 3 weeks. And it's like, that's not really like it's like, it's such a stereotype, regardless of truth or not.
Totally. Like Delhi Belly, 100%, you're going to get it. Like 100%. If you eat at a wrong street food joint, you're going to get it. But if you don't eat from the street, you'll be fine, yo. Most people go to restaurants.
If you get off the plane, and I'm serious about this, and you go to the nearest puddle and just fucking drink it up like Master Gardener with the dirt. If you just fucking get it in there, you'll be set for the rest of your trip. I swear to God, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, have an adventure,
everyone
guys.
Go do it.
Everyone face in puddle.
This is not a joke.
You know what? Do it right outside your house right now.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well practice.
Step out and get into it.
So no lips on the bottle. The reason I bring that up is like pre-drinks in her, she doesn't, she like tips her head back to a fucking 90-degree angle and then tips the water and doesn't touch it to her mouth, which is very strange.
I don't even do it in white countries. No lips on bottle in any country. That's because I want to share whatever I eat or drink with other people without my mouth being all over it.
Yeah.
It's called being considerate. You should try it. Thank you, America, Canada, Sweden. I got y'all.
So she's scrubbing the floor and praying. I guess that's what they do at this thing.
Yeah.
She meets Tulsi, the only Indian who she talks to.
Yeah, of course she calls her Tulsi.
Tulsi, played by Rashida Singh. Doesn't seem to act anymore. I don't know. She's a teenager.
Oh, she peaked with that, and then she was like, that's enough tomfoolery for one lifetime.
I don't really get this.
No.
I don't think any of it is like well fleshed out.
No.
The thing that bothers me about everywhere she goes is like she goes to these places that can be traditional, and really only one person in the world is like, what the fuck happened with your divorce? Everyone else is like, so brave.
Yeah, wow.
Like, but even in places like India or Bali, where the woman actually says, she's like, when I tell people I'm divorced, it seems to like turn their nose off. It's like, yeah, well, apparently not anyone you fucking meet.
Yeah, no.
You know, and it just seems like it's like so convenient. It's like too convenient.
Yeah,
and that pisses me off about it.
I know.
And then, so like Tulsi like is like, you're so brave to get divorced and stuff like that, which is like, you're like, again, commending and exalting this woman for this thing that
Oh my
is
gosh.
is like
Which is not, it's an unusual reaction.
yeah.
Even today in India, if you're like telling someone that you're divorced or getting divorced in a smaller city, no less, or a smaller town, they'd be like, all right, this one's broken forever.
Yeah.
Not going to get any, they're not rushing to your, aid to smack you on the back and be like, good job. Way to free and empower yourself.
Yeah. And here's the thing that Tulsi kind of starts in this film that at least got me thinking is that Elizabeth Gilbert seems to only meet magical people of color.
Well, which is
except for
trope.
Sophie, who's magical Swedish. Like,
well, yeah.
And the reason I say
Viola
that
Davis,
is
what's
that
up?
Viola has her own kind of like character. But the reason I say this about the people she meets on her travels is you really don't get a lot else from them. They're just there to service her own spiritual journey, as we've mentioned before. Tulsi being one of them. And the reason I say that is that, and Richard Jenkins sort of, but he gets his own moment, right?
Yeah.
And furthermore, Javier Bardem, kind of the male version of a manic pixie dream girl a little bit.
Oh my God.
Like.
Oh my God.
So
I didn't think it was possible, but Javier Bardem is deeply, deeply unlikable in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You broke Javier
in,
Bardem.
He's in daddy
Liz
mode,
Gilbert.
though. He's a good daddy.
Dude, outside of that, any interaction he has with any woman is like full body cringe. Get the fuck away from me right now.
We'll get to that. So with Tulsi, right? Like, first of all, she's in India. She's in Kolkata. She doesn't talk to any Indian people except for one. Richard Jenkins, all the admin at this fucking ashram are all fucking middle-aged white people.
Yeah.
And then Tulsi is just there.
Yeah.
And it just does make her kind of feel like this magical person of color who just comes in to like give Liz perspective on life, because Tulsi's about to marry a dude who's going to take her to Silicon Valley and make $1 million in a couple of years. But she's just like, oh, but arranged marriages suck. And then the movie, it's just like, it's got this such like basic kind of shit feminist version of like,
oh yeah,
like the arranged marriage thing is like, oh, how could you ever,
oh
how
my
could you
God.
ever imagine that people could be happy like that? And it's like, I don't know. There's like lots
so
of places.
Suddenly
like,
this like super like positive, empowered young girl who's like, good job on getting your divorce, Liz. Very brave of you. 2 seconds later, like, arranged marriage? How could, what if everything is terrible in this instance? Like, bro, you're a child. Well, 17, 18, whatever. But like, your whole life has been nothing but seeing and experiencing other people go into arranged marries.
How can you be surprised?
How can
that
you be
this
surprised?
is happening to you? Yeah, and then in the end, it's not like that would be too obscene. But it's not like Liz like saves her from it. They just have an Indian wedding.
Yeah,
they have a scene that it's just like a westernized fetish of an Indian wedding, which like. Lots of people, the legend of the Indian wedding is a real thing, especially in Vancouver, where we have lots of Indian people here.
Of course,
People are like, oh man, like all this whole block is shut down. They're having a huge wedding, and so like the legend of these weddings is a real thing.
Yeah,
doesn't make it any less kind of like it's not a unique vision in any way. Yeah, it just seems like It seems like a wedding from Indian Matchmaker, which are the most crazy blowout, massive Indian weddings that they can have, right?
But there's a weird moment after the wedding, or like in between while it's going on, where she comes over to Liz, and then she's like, "Did you pray for me or whatever?"
No, Liz Jenkins tells her to like dedicate her happiness to someone, basically, and Liz ends up dedicating. Liz, because she's such a fucking great white lady, dedicates her happiness in her prayer to Tulsi.
My God,
and then Tulsi's like, oh, thank you so much. Which the thing that is so ridiculous is like Liz kind of comes into white savior this young woman and she does something that's I mean, if you believe in that kind of prayer sort of shit, fine. Yeah. But it's like kind to be like, I thought of you while I prayed. Like that's Christians try to do that all the time. And but like, you know what I mean? Like it is like to people who believe in that, it's like a kindness. Like I thought of you, I included you in my prayers in this kind of way. Yeah. But then Tulsi is just kind of like, oh my God, thank you so much. She's got to thank Liz for fucking coming to her country and praying for her.
Dude,
get the fuck out.
Like, not one person. I mean, no one in the studio was like, oh, wait a damn minute.
Yeah.
Not one person. And I'm sure they had like Indian consults,
2010, do you think that was actually happening? No.
Like Kal Penn is probably everywhere, man. That fucking guy.
He was working in the White House at the time.
He is
actually.
Tulsi. What a character
Kal Penn
actor.
was outside of the White House, putting his face in a puddle, being like, I gotta get used to this DC water. You know?
Julia Roberts takes her mask off. It's Kal Penn underneath the whole time.
Oh, God. Okay. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Jenkins basically confesses about what happened to him. I think that's another good scene in the film. And then, like, that's a good moment. Jenkins is great in, like, everything.
He's the only guy worth listening, watching, whatever.
Yeah, but I still find their relationship to be kind of, like, I just, like, don't get it. She gets, like, really pissed off at him for very, like, minor things that he says.
Sure.
And it's just weird.
Well, he's like the typical like man from Texas, or so it comes off originally.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, I have an impression of you. First impression is the last one, and done.
The other thing too that I found really weird is like she decides to do the silence thing, and then the white boss administrator lady is like, come to my office, and she's there, and then there's this scene that I just think is dumb.
Yeah.
Where she's just like, we need someone to guide the new people coming here.
Yeah.
And as the greatest white lady who's ever come here, besides possibly myself, we think it should be you. And it's this like weird, like triumphant thing where it's like, well, what the fuck did she do? Also, this woman, we never even seen them like talk. Like,
no,
it's
nothing.
It's just so weird. And so because of that, because of the weird narrative nothingness of it, you're just kind of like, this is just her reward for being the best white lady at the ashram.
Yep. Like the weirder thing is she comes all this way to like learn how to pray, to meditate, be whatever.
Turns out she teaches other people. She's
to
so
like,
good at it.
Here's all these things you got to do to be an effective ashramer, and one of the things is shut the fuck up. Like, so be silent. Like, you got a badge. She puts it on, and 5 seconds later, she rips it off because that boss lady was like, "Yo, go talk to these other people coming in." She's like, "Oh, why? Yes, I will."
Yeah.
Post haste. It's like, you failed. You failed the ashram.
The thing that's so, this whole sequence, the Indian one especially, is just like, she's like this gravity well that sucks all of India around her, and she's at the center of the universe here.
Which is like the point through the movie the whole time. She's the main character.
In India specifically, yeah, she's very main character energy in India specifically. And I find it just like so frustrating. Like, even in Bali, you get a better sense of that, like, people have their own lives and stuff, and that she's come into it.
Yeah.
Because once you meet Javier Bardem and stuff, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in India, it's just kind of like, man, they're all just waiting for me to arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, now that you say that, the only person who is kind of putting her in her place is in Bali, who's probably Ketut's wife, or the lady who works there is like, fuck do you
She's
want?
just like mean to her though. That's like not really much.
Yeah, no. And I don't know if she's mean to her or to just everyone in general, but we don't see her interact with anyone but Julia Roberts.
The only person who challenges her in any way is Richard Jenkins, and he eventually like acquiesces to her kind of amazingness in a way.
It's like, why, dude?
I don't know. Because they have to ramp up the tension somehow. So anyway, let's fucking go to Bali now. Now, in a normal story, if it wasn't based off a hit book, this is where the movie would start.
Yes.
Because there's simply, even though the movie is quite long, there's just simply not enough time to get through to sufficiently motivate what's happening here in Bali.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is she re-meets
Ketut.
She meets Wayan, the healer, who heals her cut after she gets hit. Javier Bardem runs her over with his car. And it's really funny when Wayan is like, you haven't fucked in a while because your knee's all messed up.
Oh, stupid.
It's pretty great.
Your joints have no fluid. Figure it out.
And then
the Wayans, the whole thing with like Ketut being this guy who says the same thing to her even though he doesn't recognize her, now that he's seen her years later. He meets Julia Roberts after that first scene in the movie. He meets her now, And he says, "You are a world traveler. You are a," and she's like, "Wait, no, you already told me that."
The thing that's so weird about that scene is like she comes up and she says, "Hey, Katut," like she knows him,
Yeah.
and he doesn't recognize her.
No, he doesn't.
And I was like, finally, someone doesn't think she's the center of the
Yeah.
fucking universe.
But then
she's like, "Oh, you gave me this," and I mean, come on, he probably gives that to a lot of white ladies.
yeah, and then he immediately goes,
Yeah.
"You smile with liver."
And-
Also, something he could have said to anyone. And so they send her to a healer who
But he
takes a
would've-
bunch of leaves, puts it on her wound, and she's magically
She's
cured.
healed, yeah.
Yo,
And then, well, get to that later.
this whole Bali thing is like a welcome to heaven fairyland where all your wishes and dreams come true in the most unrealistic way possible, as fast as you can imagine it.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
And so one of the most realistic things that does happen here, she's at Wayan's hut. She's getting her leg leafed up. And this Brazilian lady kind of floats in and is like, "Hi, my name's Armenia. Do you have a dress? Come to a party tonight." "Okay, see you later." That's the most realistic thing in the world, because I gotta say, Brazilians are the nicest people on earth.
Yeah.
If in my travels, a couple of times I've been, I don't think I've never not ended up talking to a Brazilian person.
Yeah.
They're all incredibly nice. People say Canadians are nice. They're wrong. Brazilians are truly the nicest people on earth.
Shout out Brazil.
Seriously.
Nice.
Yeah, everywhere. When I was in South America, when I was in Chile, most of the people I talked to were Brazilian.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they're nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full of life and zest.
Yeah.
Good dresses. But
People say Canadians are nice, but we're not really. We're just like polite, and we just don't want anyone to think we're
seem
assholes.
nice,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
We're kind of cold.
Yeah.
Comes from our icy hearts. But I will say, not to dissuade anyone, in smaller towns, certainly people are nice.
Hey guys, don't go to a museum in Canada. You might get stabbed.
Yeah. Most crime happens in museums in Canada.
Don't put your mouth on a Coke
Not
bottle.
just from, our history, but like, yeah.
Whatever you do, face and puddle right away. This movie made me never want to go to Bali ever again.
I mean, it certainly doesn't like.
God damn.
Yeah. But so she goes to a party. She re-meets Javier Bardem at the party, and then she goes off to maybe bone with this Australian guy, which is also another very realistic thing. Yeah.
It's like all these just perfect specimen just who like fall into her lap, who have no ounce of malice in them. Yo, where are you traveling?
I mean, maybe like the to give her the benefit of the doubt, like it is possible. Some people are just endlessly, not endlessly, but like what's the word for it? Like without the effortlessly charismatic, and they do kind of attract people around. I know
totally,
people like that.
Totally.
Right?
But like when
I'm
you are
certainly
a
not.
magnet,
You're listening to my podcast. You know that I'm not.
Yeah. Certified magnet. But you get garbage like me all the time. So what's the deal with not one creepo going up to Julia Roberts like, "What's up, shorty?"
But they also like, she also chooses not to like really kind of publicize the parts of like, oh yeah, and I had to wait for fucking 8 hours in this airport and shit, like all of the shitty parts of traveling, which enhances the fantasy that you get from this escapist reality. Right? Is that like, man, you can be fucking just having turkey for breakfast in Italy, and the next day you wake up and you're in India, and it's like, yeah, there's a little in between that.
What's going on?
It's far. The world is large, and you gotta have your cleansing puddle and shit your brains out, and then get to your hotel. Yeah,
it's called having a total experience.
Yeah. So
Javier Bardem's job.
Yeah,
his motivations.
I don't know what his
She
job
meets
is.
Javier Bardem, who's also a divorcee, who has a grown child, 19-year-old, and he's like, "Well, I have import-export business of jewelry, and I said I could do it from anywhere in the world, so I chose to come to Bali and do it. But my wife, she's like, no, we gotta stay in with
Australia.
Yeah,
Typical Australian.
classic. And then, close to the end of the movie, he's like, "All right, Julia Roberts, let's go to this island and start our life together. I love you." And then she says, "No, well, let's go elsewhere. And now I can't make this decision to be here."
All of a sudden, she backs out of literally everything she's discovered.
Classic, which she always does. And then Javier Bardem's like, but I have to be in Bali. My import-export business. which earlier could have been done anywhere in the world.
I don't know, yeah.
Solid alibi. It's just like, but come on now. I got to be here because earlier I couldn't, but now I got to because Jules. What? I hated everything about him. I hate so much.
I mean, the thing is
So much.
that she escapes from kind of like two relationships that aren't quite working to a guy that you're just kind of like, well, what's so special about this fucking guy?
They're all duds.
This is what I mean, is that there's not enough time to sufficiently establish why she falls for Javier Bardem besides the sexy accent.
I know why. They're all boring duds because she's a boring dud. I'm sorry. This lady has no personality. Probably not in the book. I don't know. I've never read it. But
no, in real life, she's quite a charming person.
Great in real life, which she's great.
Doesn't mean that you're going to pick all the people, right?
No. And then when you obviously, this is not a real life account to the T, right? It's some parts are obviously dramatized and fictionalized. Yeah. But then if in the entirety of your film, if you cannot make Julia Roberts a likable character, then get another personality. Because what is going on, Liz Gilbert? 2.5 hours, man.
Yeah.
And pretty woman. She's like a Pomeranian dog of a person.
Yeah, but they manufacture this kind of schism in their relationship, and then Julia Roberts is like, well, yeah, I guess I will. Anyway, then they just kind of get together, right? And it's not, I don't know. And oh man, mercifully, the movie just ends right as they get back together, which is wonderful, like really, truly wonderful. But before that, though, she white saviors YN as well.
Yes, of course.
Because she gets donated, which, again, can't really complain about this. It's a really lovely thing to do, is like she gets people to donate money for this woman to build a house. But also, it's just kind of like, what the fuck are you? You know?
What are you?
Like, yeah, I don't know. I found it so, it's just still kind of patronizing, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah. It's like, if this movie's trying to encourage people to travel, it's going to end up doing the opposite.
But the thing is that it does, though. Like, it does encourage people to travel and indulge in fantasy
her way.
Like this.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying earlier.
Harmful.
Right? I don't think it's, like, really, really harmful, because as much as, like, someone might want to travel like this and indulge in this fantasy, the reality starts to hit you quickly.
You're saying that it's not harmful, but it's probably also very dangerous. I'm saying if you're going to be a single lady traveling and just buck wild doing, here's all my money, and then also I'm going to stay in you're going to get fucking worse things have happened to people who travel.
That's the thing, though, is like reality will eventually come to grab you. You know, like I remember I was listening to a podcast where a guy was describing he had been to India a few times. Yeah. And specifically Delhi, and he was like, I swear there's an entire cottage industry of people who they just find lost Americans who thought that India was going to be this like spiritual bastion, and then they end up in Delhi, which is a mega city, and then they have a mental breakdown because they can't handle it, and they're just there to help them get out of Delhi. Yeah, you know,
there you go.
And like that's,
oh my gosh,
you know, like. Traveling is worth every fucking penny typically, unless you're going to
do it
Ontario.
In a somewhat informed way.
But like don't
romanticize
let yourself be in this like fantasy. That's
like a
all.
fool. Do you think like Eat, Pray, Love, if they did a gender reversal, is it any different from middle-aged guy buys a Ferrari?
I mean, that's like worse. That's like more harmful, I think.
Well, only to himself, I guess, but
I don't know.
I don't think he's impacting other people around him, but just like in terms of like, have this big, spending splurge where I'm
not sure how many middle-aged men would be so creative as to go find this kind of like.
Yeah, I'm saying the guy version of that. The closest I can think of is like being extravagant in these ways.
I think
to yourself.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, some guy actually did write like a version, which is a thing that I hate when people coast off the success of another work to like kind of poke fun at it. Yeah. And he I think he wrote like a kind of like goofy take on this or whatever, which it was like the guy's version of it, which was kind of like, I mean, not all guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
I'm sure there's like lots of men looking for mail order brides in the Philippines right now being like, this is my Eat, Pray, Love. But
yeah, there you
like,
go. Hey,
yeah.
in Bali.
Yeah.
That's where they're doing it.
But yeah, I don't know. There's versions of this. Well, what are you trying to get at?
I'm saying if this whole movie was with a guy who's like, I'm going to marry someone 20 years younger than me and buy a Ferrari and then reinvent my life trying to find meaning and balance. And I don't think they would say meaning and balance because this movie is so typically gendered and so like narrow in its perspective that a guy version could also afford to be just as gendered and narrow and kind of shallow.
Yeah.
And then I don't think it would get enough bashing.
I think it would today. It would definitely,
today, sure,
yeah.
but like when this movie, huge names and still 36%. But then I don't know. I can't think of like a movie equivalent that does this. Hangover, maybe? No. I don't know.
From like a male perspective.
Yeah, like what's a film that's Eat, Pray, Love, but for dudes?
It's nothing is it's very unique. That's the thing. It's like you can't really recreate this film in any way because then it's just kind of a rehashing of similar themes.
I guess, yeah.
The thing too about Liz Gilbert, to her credit, is like I don't think a kind of stupid or less thoughtful person would go do all of this in the way that she does it.
Yeah.
And think about and philosophize about it as she does it.
Yeah.
So, 10 people could write this book, but only one can really write this story.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be her because
I think
she's talented.
The ick is that it's a humble brag through and through.
Right. And I think that's exacerbated by the film, by the needs of the film.
Yeah.
Kind of, they have overlooked some of the more humble bits of Elizabeth Gilbert's actual story.
Definitely.
But speaking of other films and travel movies, I have a top 5 we can talk about.
We are the top 5. Yeah. What is it about?
It's top 5 irresponsible travel films.
Yay!
Now, what I mean by that is a couple things. They're either movies that I think have like this have influenced people to go to places just based on a fucking film, which we know someone who might be listening right now who did that. I'm not knocking them, but Call Me by Your Name was one of those, but that's not on this list.
Yay.
I don't think that's an irresponsible travel film because
Not
apparently
at
it's
all.
just like Italy porn, which I can get behind.
Hey, it's motivated by love. That's
But-
a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is like they either motivate people kind of shallowly to go to a place,
Yeah.
or they make you want to go there despite the circumstances of what's happening in the movie. And I have 5 of these. I want to say an honorable mention. So
Okay.
one honorable mention to despite what's happening in the film, you're just like, I do want to go there. The Talented Mr. Ripley. It's
my God.
a fantastic Italy film.
Oh, geez.
And despite all the murder and deceit, you're just kind of like, yeah, I mean,
yeah. I'd kill for that pizza, though.
I'd let Matt Damon beat me to death in a boat if I could
What's
hang out
up?
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Attenzione, pickpocket.
That movie, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I think it's not rated highly enough for how good Philip Seymour Hoffman is in that film. And he's like the 5th lead.
Yes.
And like him and Kate Blanchett just kind of pop in and you're just like, these fucking
What do you
amazing.
choose doing
You've
here?
never seen it, have you?
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I thought you hadn't. Okay. Well,
I'm all caught up. I got my culture.
People don't know this, but me and you don't talk ever. So
No,
yeah.
we get together once a week, talk at each other, and then
Yeah.
good night.
But I'm normally facing the wall, and you're. Yeah. That's how you like it for some
Let
reason.
me in the door.
Okay, so another one. This is a movie that I fucking can't stand, but is definitely like. I think it's an irresponsible film, but it does make you want to go to a place.
Yeah.
Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, hell yeah.
Definitely just Singapore porn.
Definitely.
All over.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like good,
Yeah.
like fancy, rich.
Yeah, beautiful.
You know?
Again, a movie that I think is terrible, but just to be clear,
Why do you hate crazy rich Asians so much?
have you seen it?
Yes.
The entire point of Crazy Rich Asians, every single scene is look how rich these Asians are. It's not fucking good, and it's just like it's so insane.
Babe, the point is that rich people can feel love too.
Now, Crazy Rich Asians, which maybe some people are offended by my take of that film. I don't much care. I don't think it's very good. And I think if you think it's like a really great film, you're just kidding yourself. Based on a book as well, which
Right.
I feel like some nuance was lost from the book.
Or
too.
you know what? Doesn't need to have any highbrow take on this at all. It's
And
good to be rich.
For my
It's
own,
better to be Asian, and if you're both of them, damn, that's the doofecta.
I mean, if you're rich in Singapore, you're probably having a great time. But to pour water on my own ridiculous critique of that film is like, it's a valid dramatization of events. It's fine to have
totally,
that. Yeah. Even though it's not a universal experience to be rich billionaires in Singapore.
Damn
But,
right.
Yeah. Well-made shit film.
I refuse to learn how to play mahjong until I am crazy rich Asian.
That's a good scene though.
Yeah.
When she plays mahjong, that's great. It's Crazy Rich Asians. I have a double for the next two.
A tie.
Yeah, because
Nice.
they both. Every time I watch both of them for about 10 minutes, I'm just like, man, maybe going to Africa would be really interesting. I would be really worried about that myself because Africa has some very dangerous parts, as
Yeah.
people can probably know.
What was it?
Last King of Scotland
Yes.
definitely makes like you're kind of like, I
Brilliant.
want to go to a dictatorship.
Fucking brilliant movie.
Yeah.
My God, haunting. I never want to go, but yes, haunting.
And then there's scenes in Blood Diamond too where
yeah.
Blood Diamond is an underrated
fucking
film
Blood
in
Diamond.
my opinion. And there's scenes in that where you're just kind of like, I want to sit on the beach and fucking talk to Jennifer Connelly and
100%.
yeah.
100 The trees, so lush.
yeah, good movie. Another one, and I've told you about this one before.
Number 2.
This is number 3 actually.
Oh.
I've told you about this one before because this movie, every time I watch it, I'm just like, minus the killing of terrorists, I would really enjoy this as my life. Munich, where they're
Oh
just
my God,
they're just
yes.
kind of bouncing around Europe.
Yes,
just
of course.
fucking looking like a bunch of hotties, but
Classic.
except for the murdering of terrorists.
Hella murders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super dead.
Lots of and lots of almost dying themselves. Lots of blowing things up. And,
But that's the
yeah.
upside.
Amazing movie.
Happy
Munich
ending.
is a fucking awesome movie.
Sick.
Second, one of my favorite films of all time, Into the Wild.
Ooh.
Now,
But
I mean, a beautiful film
yeah.
that kind of is like, except for the dying at the end,
Yeah.
this is a really interesting way to travel.
What country?
Just America.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you never seen it?
I have, but I only remember the trees and the waterfall and all this stuff.
You and your fucking trees, man.
Man, I know. I got a one-track mind.
But yeah, but then, I mean, he does die in the end. But
Yeah.
there is lots of
Yeah.
things leading up to his death that weren't just like, he walked in the woods and tripped and fell on a rock.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like a freak accident. It was many factors that aided his death. Really good movie. Really good book, too.
Yeah.
Love it. I really love that movie, though.
I
It's
know.
in my
You're
top
a
10.
big fan. Yeah.
Huge fan. Yeah. And then number 1, irresponsible travel film,
Uh-huh.
which I'm sure made many, many white ladies flock to Spain, is Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
100% yes. Maybe
Yeah.
that version of Javier Bardem? No.
That's Bardem. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that version of Bardem is the male equivalent of buys a Ferrari, goes middle aged, has a maybe.
He's like uncomfortably aggressive in that film, like
Yeah.
in his sexiness,
Yeah.
and it's like
He's like mysterious, aloof, but also I'll take what I want type
But then
guy.
he just walks up there to him. He's like, "Come to Oviedo with me."
Yeah. Take her pants off.
And
Let's do this
Scarlett
right
Johansson's like, I don't know, maybe.
now. Shut up.
He's
You
like,
can't
"No,
make me. I'm already
you will
there.
come to Oviedo with me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a Woody Allen movie.
Damn.
It is what it is. Yeah.
I thought I have one that I just thought of.
Tell me
but
about it.
I don't know if it's worthy of being like dangerous travels, but in Bruges.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one actually.
Sick.
Yeah.
So good. That one
I-
made me want to travel to there, and I did, and it was fantastic. So I highly recommend going to Bruges. You gotta
Yeah.
go see it.
You shot a
Mm.
child in the head with an exploding bullet.
It's worth it. One last thing you
I
think.
think the same could be said about Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
Do something like that.
Banshees, 100%.
Go to an Irish island with no trees.
Oh my God. What is the fucking Chris Pine movie with the king?
Star Trek.
Outlaw.
Oh,
Outlaw King.
Yeah, that's a
Go
Scotland movie.
to
yeah.
Scotland. Go to
I mean,
Glasgow.
there was a fucking entire
Game
of Thrones pretty much
covered
created
Croatia.
the Croatian
Yeah.
tourist economy. Croatia and Iceland, basically.
Totally.
Yeah.
Again, irresponsible travel. No puddles in Croatia.
No,
that I know
mean
of.
I wouldn't call Game of Thrones like an irresponsible travel movie because it's not about travel. It's just set in these
No.
places that are beautiful.
They're always on horseback. Where are they going?
Yeah. Also, it's not a real place. It's not real life. Oh man.
Yeah. Wow.
We've been fucking praying for this to end.
Cried a lot through this.
Got anything else?
My membrane is sufficiently
Permeated. Haven't permeated your membrane.
Oh, I'm over it.
Yeah, I can unequivocally say I'm never watching this film again. This has been the low ceiling.
This is the lowest ceiling.
Been the lowest ceiling we've reached yet.
Yeah.
Thank you for
John.
listening. Pre's John. I'm Pre. Go travel somewhere. Be nice about it.
Don't forget the puddle.
Yeah. Don't forget the puddles. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.